Really excited that everyone's here. It's a really important conversation to talk about how we are going to, start to think about teaching teaching remotely these really hands-on classes. I have Abraham Ewing joining me today to give us some feedback and share his thoughts. At the end, we will have question and answer so we can engage in a dialogue. If you're not talking right now and you're listening, I'm just going to suggest that you mute your microphone because, in the event that hundreds of people come on this webinar, it can get a little bit distracting and there can be feedback. The other piece that I'm going to ask is before you talk, if you don't mind just saying your name. This helps people who have some maybe struggle seeing or hearing. Also, since we haven't memorized everyone's voice, if you can just say your name before you speak, that's really useful. So let's begin. Okay, so next. Okay, so we just wanted to introduce ourselves. I will start and then I'll turn it over to Abe. I'm Amanda Bastoni. I was a CTE teacher in the state of New Hampshire. And then I was a CTE director in the state of New Hampshire, and now I work for a nonprofit educational company called CAST, which created Universal Design for Learning. Abraham?
My name is Abe Ewing. I'm a manufacturing and woodworking teacher at Conval Regional High School in Peterborough, New Hampshire. I love woodshop and teaching kids.
Awesome. Okay, great. So this idea came from the question, as we're all moving to remote learning, we think about the margins. How do we teach? If we can teach successfully these classes in the margins or classes that seem like they would be the most complex, then it can tell us something about how we can best teach classes that might seem a little bit easier to teach online or might seem more intuitive to teach online. So really our guiding question is, I teach traditional hands-on classes like woodworking. What are the first steps I should think about as I move to remote learning? This webinar is not going to, answer every single question you might have, but it's going to point you to resources. And it's also just going to give us an idea of how we get started. That's our big idea here.
It's Amanda.
Hi, Lori.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I found this quote from Edutopia that I think is really, really a great place for us to start. The feedback from Italy over the last 10 days is that less is more. So parents are working from home, siblings are vying for computers, and they're suggesting that we try reading, do short sessions with your class, maybe some vocabulary, maybe a few math problems, but the big idea here is start less is more. Keep it simple. So we kind of came up with three sort of key points. Keep it simple. Make sure you focus on relationships. Relationships are still really the big key. And ask for help when you need it. Remember, you're human, the kids are human, even the Department of Ed is human. So there's going to be mistakes that are made, there's going to be lessons that are learned. If we can just focus on less is more, I think that's a really great place to start. Abe, do you have any thoughts about that slide?
I'm in full agreement at this point with that slide. I think.
Okay, so one of the things we really want to stress is remember that all the things that mattered when you were teaching in the classroom, face-to-face, still matter. Those things still matter. So what we're going to do is start with, this is Abraham Ewing's first assignment that he sent home to kids. It's about 1.5 minutes. We're going to watch it, and then I'm going to ask Abe to just share with us what his goal was with this first video.
Good morning. I'm here to give you some woodshop online starting today, March 18th. So today I'm going to post this video to Google Classroom, and your assignment is to answer the daily question in Google Classroom. That's how we're going to do it today. So the daily question today is, what is your favorite board or card game and why? Put feet up on the board. We'll try to do our breathing. So we're going to stop real quick and we're going to close our eyes and we're going to breathe out. We're going to breathe in. And we're going to breathe out. Now, everybody, you can answer the question, what is your favorite board or card game and why? Your answers are due by 7 p.m. So I can figure out if everybody has a Google Classroom or not, and whether or not they're partaking. So answer the question, type a line, tell us why. I don't want an electronic answer. Like, you got to answer electronically, but it can't be an electronic answer. So you can't say Fortnite, the Fruits Online, you'll get 0. It's worth 3 million points. 3 million points. It's really hard not to look at the little picture of me right now. We're going to get through this together, you and you. So signing out from Peterborough, New Hampshire, Mr. Ewing, what is your favorite board game and why? See you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.
Okay, so excellent job. So Abe, you know, I know there's things you would change, right, from your first video. That's not what we need to talk about. We're here to just to learn and share together. But what was your goal with that first video? Can you just tell us what your goal was?
So yes, it's hard to make yourself vulnerable, and as teachers, we live in that realm all the time. So why should this be any different? But my goal with that lesson was to keep as many of the norms I have in my classroom the same. You know, I've spent weeks building the culture in the classroom of kindness, cooperation, respect, and keeping a solid routine every day. That all got flipped on its head when we went to remote learning. I never thought I'd be teaching remote learning wood shop. That wasn't in my future plans. So that daily question, I was trying to keep in mind that the kids that took my class took it to be hands-on and aren't necessarily great with the computers or answering in that format or even learning online. So my goal was to keep it simple, to try to maintain culture, and then also show them that I wasn't used to this either, that they needed to, or that I was uncomfortable being an online woodshop teacher in a way, so that it's okay if they're not sure what to expect either.
Awesome. Okay, terrific, Abe. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that your feedback is great. So let's keep going. Let's keep exploring. So I also heard in that video, Abe, before we jump forward, that you were trying to get them to see how many, you know, you gave a timed assignment, so they had to turn it in by 7 p.m. that night. What did that allow you, just very quickly, because we want to keep moving, but what did giving that timed assignment allow you to do?
It allowed me to check in at 7 o'clock and see who hadn't opened up Google Classroom and done the simple assignment. So then I was able to turn around, make a short list of kids that weren't accessing the internet, that weren't accessing Google Classroom, that maybe didn't understand what I was asking or how to click on the video or how to give a response or how to turn in the assignment. So it made a short list. I've been making phone calls, and there's varying reasons why the kids aren't in, but for the most part, I'm trying to get every student involved early to create a culture that they log in consistently every day, and don't think I'm going to assign 50 pages of homework.
Perfect. Okay, good. So just to reiterate what I heard you saying is that by giving that timed assignment, you could see who wasn't participating and you could follow up with a phone call home or some other way to reach out to make sure there weren't barriers that were preventing the student from participating.
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay, good. So now we're going to just move into, I just have 4 questions for Abe. And I think they'll help us really with our question, which is how do we start teaching online, or how do we start teaching remotely? Some people aren't even, don't even have, some students don't have access to the internet. So how do we teach remotely a class that was very hands-on? So first, Abe, I'd like it if you could talk to us. The advice is to stick with technology that your district is recommending. Maybe this is not the time to try a brand new technology. What technologies are you using, and how are you using them?
So I'm really fortunate in that our district, Conval, all my students have Chromebooks. So anything on the Google Suite is fair game for my district to use. Part of that is YouTube. I started diving into some Loom and some other programs to try and do some video editing, and then I just went back to YouTube. Made the video. The kids are very familiar with it. They aren't trying to learn anything new.
Abe, die geeft Abe die een les online.
Oh, Anita, can you just could you please just what is it called? Oh my gosh, mute your screen there. Otherwise, we can hear you.
Hi, Anita.
Hello, Abe. How are you?
So you'll see this microphone that's like going up and down in the corner. If you just click on that, it'll mute it.
Okay, so I do this.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And there will be time for questions at the end. Don't worry. So Abe, what I heard you saying was that you're using the technology that your district has already recommended. You have the benefit of having one-to-one in your district. Obviously, not all districts are going to have that. And you tried playing around with some technology that you hadn't used before, and you decided to return back to technology you're familiar with. Is that correct?
Yeah, because there's a lot of distractions at home. I wanted to go with something the kids would recognize, find easy to use, the district approved, and I don't think this is a time to pile on more technology or unknowns when none of us know how to do a distance ed online woodworking course. I don't know how. I'm still figuring out myself, and my kids definitely, this is hard for them. So let's stick to the YouTube. I know they know that. And Google Classroom, there's some quirks and buttons that they're trying to figure out. Let's keep it simple.
Perfect. I think that's perfect. Okay, great. So let's keep going. So Abe, thinking about the video, you mentioned in there that you were trying to keep some of the structures from your classroom. So that daily question, that's really important. When we think about moving online, it's going to be it's sort of like we're all starting over, right? You spend a week building culture or whatever, a couple days to a week. Now we have to rebuild culture online. The good news is kids are really good at building culture online, right? Like my son is on Xbox. Kids know how to build culture online. We just want to make sure that these are safe cultures where that everyone has access to. So what classroom structures are you keeping as you move online?
I'm trying to keep the relationship and safe learning environment as alive as I possibly can. Those are things that are usually built with that face-to-face interaction, that daily coming into Mr. Ewing's wood shop, taking the big deep breath. So as we move forward, my goal is to keep the daily question alive every day. That breathing exercise you saw, that was the first time I've done it online, but so it feels a little goofy doing it, closing your eyes in front of a camera like that, but hopefully my kids will see the humility in it. And then also trying to keep the lessons every day part cognitive, but also as interactive as possible. Like my day 2 lesson was to go find a tree.
We're gonna watch it actually.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, good. So Abe, one of the things I heard you saying too is that you want in your classroom, you have a structure built in to get 100% participation. That's what the daily question kind of does.
Absolutely.
And it seems like you're trying to reiterate, you're trying to build that into your online culture, which is to get 100% participation. I think that's pretty huge.
Absolutely. With something achievable for every student.
Right. I want to reiterate that too. So pretty low stakes, right? So even though you said 1 million points or 3 million points, you were joking, and you're trying to start off with something low stakes so they can get used to the culture and then build from there.
You know, exactly. Even in the classroom, the culture behind the video is if a kid's having a bad day and doesn't feel like talking in front of his peers, or can't, or is in a rough place, the rule in my classroom has always been they can email me the answer or send it to me in an alternative way. So there's a lot of ways to get full credit on that. You know, if a kid answers back today that he couldn't do it yesterday because Wi-Fi was down or whatever the problem is, that's okay, as long as they're just attempting in some way to be actively involved in the culture I'm trying to put forth.
Perfect. Okay, so we just want to move quickly so we can keep people engaged and have time for their questions. So another piece of advice, don't forget to ask for help, or don't be afraid to ask for help from district tech ed directors, special educators, from your peers, your CTE director. Maybe Abe, you could tell us a quick story of someone you've reached out to or had a meeting with already.
Oh, our district IT director and media specialists have been absolutely awesome. The thing I will say is that you're not going to ask a question that they will judge you for. Like, hey, how do I create a YouTube channel? They've been working, they're really good at teaching you how to do that. So don't feel like, oh, I should know how to do this, I'm behind the 8 ball. Reach out to those people. You know, yesterday we tried to have our first Google Hangout meeting with our department as a whole. And I'd seen Google Hangouts, I'd seen other people use them, but I'd never used them. So here we are 3 minutes before the meeting, and I'm going to the technology I know, which is my phone and texting, to text my department to figure out how to get into the Google Hangout. It was way easier. And the thing I found out was that there was 3 people in my department that were in the same boat I was. And the person that answered the question of how to get in figured it out 5 minutes before that. So quickly, we were able to all come together in a Google Hangout, a new technology I'd never used personally before. And it's expected there's going to be flaws. And my advice would be reach out. Don't be shy about it. Don't be embarrassed about it. The media specialists, the technology directors, they're on it. They're pretty solid.
Perfect. Okay, so the last thing that I want to reiterate, this is the message coming out of CAST right now, and I think it's a really good takeaway from everybody, is when you're thinking about pace, really definitely less is more right now. So, you know, some teachers are feeling very pressured to assign a ton of homework, and it's more homework than these kids have ever done in the history of being in that classroom. So really making sure that we are, you know, pacing this slowly. This could go on. The Commissioner of Education for the state of New Hampshire said he anticipates this could go on until the end of this year, you know, and that's like not, you know, he's not going to be surprised by that. I've heard, you know, just varying accounts of when this will be ending. So, you know, it's okay to have a start out slow, make sure everyone's comfortable. So Abe, you have shared 2 videos so far, and we're about to watch the second one. Just briefly, do you want to, you know, share anything about your idea for pace? Any thoughts there?
And until I get close to 100% involvement from my students, we're not ready for the next thing. They're still trying to figure out how to use Google Classroom. So that's kind of my thought process. I need to build that culture first.
Okay, good. That's perfect. Okay, so we'll come back to that other slide in a second. So the next thing is, where are educators getting support? So you're a woodshop teacher, you're a manufacturing teacher, you're an automotive teacher. We're going to watch this second video that you shared, Abe, and then we are going to talk about some resources for getting some support.
Welcome everybody to manufacturing and or wood shop distant learning version. Today's assignment is pretty simple. I'm going to ask you to keep in mind social distancing for everybody's safety and health. But I want you to get outside in front of a tree. The weather's been nice, it'll cooperate. I want you to sit in front of a tree and take a picture with your Chromebook, your phone. I don't care what it is. Make sure it's school appropriate, as always. And then in Google Classroom, where I post the assignment, I want you to respond with your picture. I don't think you can do it in the comment section. I think you actually have to go into the assignment, click a little button that will let you upload your picture or drag and drop it in some way, shape, or form from somewhere. I made a minion of mine do it earlier today to prove to me it was possible, so I know it can be done. Part of this is us figuring out how to use Google Classroom together, because I'm learning, some of you are learning, and we got to have a little patience. So your day 2 assignment is to find a tree, a cool tree, a relaxing tree. I don't care what kind of tree, as long as it's somewhere you like to be. And if you can't get outside because of safety reasons, health, maybe you live in an apartment complex on the 4th floor and you don't want to walk down all the stairs or past all those doorknobs, that's fine. Drop a tree on your wall, somewhere where you feel safe. Because that's going to be your tree. It's going to be your tree we come back to later this semester, maybe in a week, maybe tomorrow. We're going to figure this out. But find a picture of a tree and respond to the question in Google Classroom with a picture of you in front of your tree. Or what type or how tall or how many branches are at the top. Get out there, get a little sunshine on you, get a picture of a tree on your face, your hair, everything on you. And above all, I hope you have a great Thursday online education. Keep in mind, this is new for a lot of us. This woodshop online, never thought I was going to be an online woodshop teacher. Can't say that was in the deck of cards for me. But we're doing it, and we're going to do it well. You and me and you, all of us together. Sayonara. Have a good Thursday night.
So Abe, what I noticed from this video is you've done some scaffolding here. So the first time you asked students just to respond written, now you're asking them to respond with a photo. So that's a slow build up, right? But it will lead you to the ability to require students to submit photos, I'm assuming in the future, part of your thinking. Maybe briefly, you want to just talk about that with us, and then we're going to move forward.
Yep, I was trying to keep it simple, add one little element to Google Classroom, and there's going to be some bumps already. I have kids responding to that. It snowed this morning in New Hampshire, so the kids aren't necessarily ready to go outside and sit next to a tree like I did. So I need to be willing to accept that and roll with it. The goal is to get a picture up of a tree. That's the goal.
Perfect. Okay. So just thinking about resources, we want to highlight one that you're a part of, the New England Association of Woodworking Teachers. So maybe you could tell us what that organization is and how teachers can use it as a resource.
So yeah, the New England Association of Woodworking Teachers was started in 2001 by Jack Gruby. To get to it, you would go to neawt.org.
They can also click on the link here from our resource.
Yeah, that www dot makes it not work for some reason because it's a G Suite and our IT director is working on it. So just newt.org, skip the W's. But it was started in 2001 by Jack Gruby as a way for woodshop teachers to come together and share ideas. The mission hasn't really changed. We meet twice a year. This thing that happened with COVID has propelled us to kind of move forward with trying to get everybody together online ourselves. I've been talking to different teachers around the state. Kim Sweat up in Cannon, up in northern New Hampshire, Vermont. You know, she has different ideas. Phil Carl has different ideas. Dave Schindlinger, a great woodshop teacher, last year's new teacher of the year up in Merrimack Valley. He's doing some cool stuff. And it's nice to be able to pool our resources together and see what other guys are doing. And although my idea might seem silly to somebody or anything else, it's another resource for teachers to see what other people are doing, how they're doing it, and what they're asking of their kids to kind of try and keep it some structure to it a little bit as we learn, as we do learning from home.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to say that the resources that are here, you can actually click directly on them. They're hyperlinked. Abe, you might want to explain though, once folks go to New England Association of Woodworking Teachers, they will need to fill out the form, right? And then they'll be approved. So do you want to talk about that process really quick?
Yep, so when you go to newt.org, there's a Google form in there. And after you fill that Google form out, it gets approved or denied. It might take a little bit. Most likely approved as long as you're a kid not trying to get test answers. After you log in the first time, the next time you log in, you click on the member only section and it will take you to the actual members website where all of our secrets are kept. Also, the Woodworkers Guild of America is a great resource. I used that in my classroom before when kids would miss days where I did demonstrations on the joiner or the bandsaw. So the Woodworkers Guild of America is a great resource for safety videos.
Yeah, and then we just wanted to share that Learning Design, which is a platform that CAST is created free for all teachers in New Hampshire, is a place where you can communicate and have dialogue, and there'll be webinars. And then also there are remote instructions or instructions on how to teach remotely directly from the New Hampshire Department of Education. So this Woodworkers Guild of America will take you to a YouTube link where you can assign some safety videos to students. I did want to return to one question, Abe.
Before
yeah.
we leave this page, it's hard for me as a woodshop teacher because I know that my kids won't get the experience that young lady in the photo is having of being on a lathe, interacting with her peers, doing the problem solving that the hands-on shop environment provides. So when Skylar was turning that bowl, she had questions nonstop as there's 192 pieces in it. I don't think I can replace that online, but we can make an attempt to at least make this valuable for our students, if nothing else, just by being a safe place for them to get on and have those memories and those social interactions and kind of try and keep as much of it, the routine as possible, the same as we move into uncharted territory here.
Yeah, and just to diverge from the PowerPoint very quickly, Abe, I just want to pull out the fact that you said problem solving. So, while I fully acknowledge and respect that students won't be able to have the same experience as the young woman in this photo, there is still problem solving assignments that you can, work into or that you can assign that will help students once they are out of high school to develop skills around problem solving. So one of the things we had we wanted to talk about in this video were, let's say, a month from now, we've really moved on from culture building. What are some assignments we might be thinking about giving? And I know you had mentioned as we were preparing for this video, potentially giving an assignment of build something out of materials you can find around the house, show a video of that, and then we could all vote on or build a utensil out of items you can find around the house. We could have a vote, which utensil do we like the best? And then maybe everyone has to replicate that. Are there any other kind of ideas you're thinking about as you move forward with these projects?
Well, yeah, there's definitely that problem solving in the kitchen. It might not replace the lathe and all this going on, but it's an attempt. And it's an attempt to come together and collaborate. It's an attempt to think creatively. And it's also one of the other things I was going to do with the tree was as the leaves start to show up on the trees here in New Hampshire, whatever tree they picked, it's about time to figure out what kind of tree it is, what the bark looks like, what the leaves look like, maybe yank a leaf when they appear, press it in a book. We got lots of directions we can go here as long as we scaffold and do it correctly. So there was some secret scaffolding there going on with the tree.
Yeah, that's great. And I know that some school districts are going to allow teachers to return periodically to the classroom. So, if you could get back into the classroom, is there a thought what would that open up for you, or what would you maybe do with that?
If I could get back into my classroom, that would be a game changer, because then I could work towards, I could start projects, a few projects, video based, a little bit each day, ask the kids what they think I should do next to accomplish the goal, whether it's a bandsaw box or making a cribbage board, and to try to incorporate some of that autonomy that I allow in the workshop into a woodworking project or manufacturing project via cyberspace. So it would be a game changer for me to have access to the equipment. But I'm gonna have to deal in reality, and hopefully it happens, but we'll see.
Great. I'm gonna unmute everyone because I'd love to have a dialogue, or Finny, if you'd like to unmute yourself. I'd love to have a dialogue about this last question that I skipped over, since we have a small group right now. So we all know that students take your classes because they have a relationship with you, they love the subject, or they really don't want to be in that traditional learning environment. There's other reasons, but these are pretty much the key reasons. When we think about this, how are you addressing this remotely in your classroom? And I'm going to open it up to Abe first, but then Finny, I would love to hear your thoughts, if you're willing, either addressing this question, or if you have other thoughts about the presentation so far. So Abe, you want to kick it off?
And Lori's a great resource too. I see
Yep.
she's
Good morning.
Good morning, Lori. So with the relationship piece, those videos are hard for me to watch in front of other adults and what's happening right now. But there's some hidden jokes in there. There's things, in the second video I was wearing my apron out in the middle of the woods. My kids have given me endless crud. They tease me all the time about all the places I wear my apron to, assemblies, everything else. So trying to keep those little things alive, those little quirky things alive, I think help with the relationship that we still have with these students. And they're leaning to us for support right now. They don't want to see their woodshop teacher freaking out. They want to see him wearing his apron out in the woods, taking a picture in front of a tree.
Awesome. Great. Finny, do you have any thoughts on, the presentation in general, or this idea of, how do we address this concept in the classroom?
Well, I do like Abe's little comment. I could see his face cringe every time he saw himself playing on the video. Yeah, you're going to be your worst, critic. Don't worry about it. You worked fine. It's funny because those are some of the same ideas I was trying to figure out. Getting into my classroom will be key if I can get in there on a regular basis. Today it was between Laura and myself who's going to go to school, because the school is open today for a limited amount of hours. So she went today. I'm with the kids and with you guys. As far as keeping it personal with the kids, the students, I've already been on Google Classroom, communicating with them, and basically letting them know that we're all learning this stuff. We're all trying to figure it out. I would like to get in my classroom and start doing some videos of some of the steps, small steps. I've also started a Google form for the daily check-in. They're going to be, my phone heard Google, so it reacts to it. So when you said Google, it also popped open and said, hey, what do you want? The daily check-in I'm working on right now. I'm also going to be putting a video together on how to make that happen in Google Classroom, but it'll have a Google form, and I want the students to answer each day a question I put in the stream. And they're going to be simple questions, just like you said, probably some goofy ones, because it fits my personality. They expect something goofy from me. And then as I go along, it'll be more and more related to whatever I have in Google Classroom. So if I have a video, it's going to be like an Easter egg hunt for the video. They have to find the information in the video. I have one question. That's all I plan on doing, just to show that they're actually not just logging in, but they're also looking through the material. And that's how we're doing attendance. So it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, that's a great idea, John. I know in preparation for this video, Abe and I talked a little bit about, could you say to them, what's one thing that's different in this video than the last one? And could Abe be like slowly shaving his goatee off, or, just like different, just different ways to, I guess what I hear you saying is different ways to keep it fun, keep it engaging, but then also check in, make sure they're accessing the material, that they can see it, that they're
Yes.
participating. Lori, as a retired teacher, I know you retired this year.
Oh, lucky.
Do you have any thoughts on this presentation? Just thinking about the approach and or the idea of teaching, hands-on in a remote learning environment.
I think it's great that you guys are making this video because it goes across all kinds of subject areas, really. I know we're talking woodworking here, but no matter what your subject is, you still need to be, getting the kids engaged, showing them that you care, showing kids that you are the calm in the midst of this crazy storm right now, and that they can still go forward, they can still be learning, that school is important in so many ways in all the classes. So good job getting this out there. And I hope a lot of people will watch and think about how they can apply this to their own classroom, whatever it is they're teaching. And got a lot of great things going. Good. Thank you. I'm glad you invited me to look in here today.
Yeah, thanks. So yes, we are recording this, so we will share it out afterwards. So you can share it with anyone that you think it might be applicable for. And then it's free to join Learning Designed online. Maybe we could just end, if you wanted to, with, I'm just curious, are there any burning questions that people have right now that we could, sort of dialogue about or try to brainstorm some solutions, or if not solutions, what I can do is I can find resources and I can share them in the video or email you or share them through Learning Design. So maybe John, we'll start with you, and then Abe and Lori. So John, do you have any, did you come to this webinar with some questions?
I came to the webinar just trying to figure out how in the world I was going to teach a hands-on course. Sounds like you guys are in the same boat as me, trying to figure it out also. I do like the idea of actually having some videos from my classroom with my personality. That's an awesome job, Abe. I know you cringed, but it was actually a good idea because the students know you already, and they're going to see that stuff, and they won't criticize you for being you. They'll criticize other things, like you said, the apron, they're going to make fun of you, but it keeps them engaged. I'm just trying to figure out how to make content and meet competencies. Woodworking is pretty nice and loose. When I get to the manufacturing one, those competencies are going to be very interesting, and I don't know how I'm going to record it. I'm sure we'll figure it out as we go along. But you're right. Take baby steps, get them used to the Google Classroom, then start introducing a little bit. Scaffolding is going to definitely be the key, and that's the answer that you're going to hit home with this webinar.
Great. Okay, great. And John, maybe at some point we should check back in and do a webinar. I know Dan Larochelle, who is the manufacturing professor at at Manchester Community College. So maybe we could have him on to talk about just some ideas about how to teach manufacturing, online. I would be curious if the community colleges would open up. A question I would have is, would the community colleges consider opening up so educators could come in? You're shaking your head. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, they're going to be the exact same problem we have because they have the virus also. They're shutting down. I've got a college student, in the house that's trying to figure that out also. He's also going to be doing distant learning. Thank God they're on vacation this week, but it's coming.
I just know that the commissioner said at some point it might make sense, groups of 6 or less, the Commissioner of Education in New Hampshire said groups of 6 or less could start entering buildings. That's not something I'm an expert on, obviously, but it's definitely something we can reach out and ask questions.
And I think it's important to be ready if they do. If that's a game changer if we're allowed to. So I have some ideas floating around. If that becomes a possibility, absolutely, I would love to get to Manchester, or even tour a woodworking facility or a manufacturing plant local as they ramp up and change for the call put forth by the president.
Right, and I was thinking too, maybe reaching out to the New Hampshire Woodworkers Guild or the Woodworkers Guild of America. Would their members be willing ever to make videos or let you do a live Zoom with folks, from that organization?
there's opportunities that are being closed every day, but there's new opportunities every day. So I would have never reached out to the Guild of American Woodworkers before today with that request, but now I got an opportunity and a reason to do it.
And I think once, maybe if we do, then you can put that link or that information on Newt, and then teachers can go there for their resource. We can post it on Learning Design. You know, we just want to make sure teachers are aware of these opportunities as they come. Eve or Lori, did you come to this webinar with any questions specifically?
I was just wondering, do all kids truly have access? I know Abe said they all took a Google Chrome home, but I know that's an issue with the schools around here, is not everyone has some sort of personal device that they can log on. And so what do you do about that?
That's a really good question. So just to let you know, at the school where Abe teaches, and I'm going to let him answer this, but there are 12% of that population does not have internet access. So it's real. And then in northern New Hampshire, we also have folks, and all over New Hampshire, actually, we have folks who don't have, kids who don't have a computer at home, or kids who don't have, you know, their parents are trying to work from home and they only have one computer, right? So you know, what I'll do is I'm going to throw that to Abe and John. Have you guys thought of, you know, what if you find out that a kid really has limited internet access, or and or no internet access?
You want to start, Abe, or?
Sure. So I feel really fortunate. I teach at Conval High School, and I need to do the best I can with my students. So I can't really answer those questions on the large scale of what do we do nationwide, but I know that our district turned around last week and sent out quizzes or things to figure, those things, to figure out who had internet access, who didn't. They've been sending packets home, you know, with the K through 4 kids. Those teachers were kind of scrambling to get some packets together to send something home with kids to work on. I know that our district has been working really hard to provide internet access for those kids that don't have it at home. And kind of geographically, we're a little bit lucky because I believe the libraries are trying to make sure their Wi-Fi is up and running in the parking lot so that kids can at least
sit in the parking lot and use the internet,
after the library's closed, or when they close, or at times that they can get out of the house. Maybe they're watching their kids and can't go park by the library till 7 or 8. But our district is working incredibly hard to make learning accessible to every student. And I can't speak for every district, but it's something we've taken very seriously from the top down. And it's not going to be perfect, but we can try really hard and work towards that as our goal.
Yeah, good. John, you're in a much more urban district with definitely some you know, larger income disparities, or more population that has some income disparities. So do you want to talk about what your thinking is?
Oh, yes. Actually, I ended up dealing with 2 districts, having my kids in the Brookline district and then being the teacher in the Nashua district. Both school districts sent out, just like you said, a survey to assess what they need, what the needs of the community would be. And both districts have offered Chromebooks to, okay, it's not green around us because I don't know why it's not green around us, but there's a green square that goes around when people are talking. He's like, why is the green square not around us? Which is unusual. Okay, back to where I was at. So both of them have offered to families Chromebooks and stuff like that. As far as internet, I don't know what Brookline has done because we have a different provider, but Nashua has hotspots from Xfinity. Xfinity has opened up all their hotspots in Nashua, and I imagine probably other districts too. So students can get Wi-Fi through that. And what's nice about their structure is if you have Xfinity in your house, you also have a hotspot broadcasting. So if I live in an apartment complex, my neighbor has Xfinity, now their communication becomes part of the hotspots also. I have Charter at my house, doesn't work that way. it's been taxing because I have 3-4 people in the house trying to get online, which normally, if it was just a normal day, it's no big deal. But I'm going to see lag as the community bogs down the internet structure here, as I imagine. Haven't seen it yet, but I imagine it's coming.
Yeah, that's I was thinking about that.
Can I chime in one more thing, Lori, to kind of specifically answer? I feel lucky that my principal this morning emailed me about one student in one of my classrooms because she knew he was struggling to get internet access right now. So when I see it on that micro level, it's a good feeling because it doesn't mean that there's 3,000 kids out there without access. But my principal was reaching out about one specific kid. So it's really been something that our administration through the teachers are really paying attention to with directive from the superintendent, Kim Saunders. So from top to bottom, everybody is trying to be hyper vigilant about it. And through my question in Google Classroom, that's one of the things I'm checking on. If I call up Billy's parents and, oh, the Wi-Fi went down or Billy's watching the 10 kids, it might not be as accessible.
Right. I think, Abe, that's a really good point. When we're thinking about this problem, it can be really daunting, right? To think about how are we going to make sure that every single student has access. But as educators, if we can think about our students in our specific classes, and we can do the scaffolding, like you said, ask them to respond, and then ascertain from there the number, which in your case, you're saying there's one student in particular that's, we really want to make sure we focus on supporting. That might be larger in different classrooms, but it's a more manageable number, right? If we can just get good data to work with and understand who doesn't have access, which I think is why it's really important, just to reiterate this, keep it simple at the beginning. Just do, Abe modeled for us really well. Try to have the students respond to something that's low stakes so you can see who doesn't have access, and then you can build from there. And then keep those relationship doors open because you really need the students to feel comfortable. What you don't want is for them to check out because they can't engage, right, Lori? So you want them to feel comfortable to tell you, I can't engage, or I can't see this, or I don't have internet access. So you want to keep those relationships built. There are still going to be situations where we're not going to be able to give them internet access. And I would like to do another webinar on that topic specifically, but some ideas I have heard is, buses are delivering meals. In many cases, we still have the bus routes open. So what we could do is deliver packets that way, physical packets through the bus route. And there are, none of these are like the optimal idea, right? None of these are the dream, but these are potential options. The other thing is, you talk with your district, potentially get some stamps, and let's, go back to mailing in our assignments. I mean, that the mail does exist. We have to think about, Lysoling that when it arrives, the virus, all those things, but there have to be ways we need to think creatively and out of the box about ways to engage all students and make sure that no one is being, left out to the extent that we can. And again, it's all about talking with the folks who know in your district. So your tech ed directors, special ed directors, I know paras are still working. In Nashua, hourly employees are still working. So can they help you reach these folks? So does that help, Lori? I mean, we don't have a, easy answer.
Right. I think it's just something that's going to get figured out as time goes by. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so are there any other burning questions or questions we want to address right now? I really thank all of you for joining us. I think this was an awesome webinar. We're going to, we are recording it, and we will caption it, and we will post it up so that you can share. And again, the bit.ly has live links to all the resources we talked about. But one last time, any questions or thoughts? Final thought. Well, we could do final thoughts from everybody. Abe, final thoughts from you?
Me and you and me, all of us are going to get through this together. Just keep trying to make it accessible for everybody. Sayonara.
Okay, good. Finny, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'll mirror that. We're just all trying to figure out together. We'll work it out and figure it out. One
Good.
step at a time.
Yeah. Lori, any final thoughts from you?
Just keep up the good work. It's an important job, whether you're doing it in school or from wherever you are. So keep it up.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.